talk about the middleweight division because that's what comes to mind and I think is the big thing. Hopefully I don't have a belly right there. And if you enjoy the content, subscribe to the channel. So tonight, like the big American fight, I would say, although one could argue that there was another fight with Pro Box TV, which was absolutely awesome, was Carlos Adames defeating Austin Ammo Williams. It was kind of a strange fight in a sense where Adames just really hasn't fought since 2022. And though he was very talented and Ammo is very raw, Ammo's a puncher and he's more athletic and he's been active. So I think some people expected Ammo to perform better. What we ended up seeing was a one-sided fight where Adames' talent just really overtook the fight. Ammo got dropped, but there was a redeeming quality to Ammo in this fight. Ammo at times has been immature. He's had issues kind of staying focused in the ring, and albeit he never adjusted, he really couldn't find his footing in the fight. He did show a level of heart and toughness. Now, I don't want to get to a point where Ammo Williams is just known for heart and toughness because that's not a good business to be in. But I think people also forget that like Adames is a really, really talented guy that in 2023, I think people were really looking at and going, is this a potential like superstar boxer? And then he just really didn't fight enough. And now he's out of sight, out of mind. And then basically at the end of the fight, that where this topic comes from, he goes, yeah, I'll fight at 154, I'll fight at 160, I'll fight at 168, which speaks to where middleweight is at. I hope I didn't have a pit stain there and I gave you a preview of it. That would be embarrassing. Middleweight is in a really weird spot. We got Erislandy Lara, who's in his 40s, who basically fights once a year, and who knows when he will return. He's the WBA champion. We've got an interim title with the IBF. Now that belt is gone because Janibek and this positive drug test when he was going to do a unification bout with Lara. And then with the WBO, Janibek is still the title holder, but then they have an interim fight that's going to take place. And then more than likely, there's going to be like a unification or a consolidation bout there. The division is about as uninteresting as I can remember it in my lifetime, void of marquee names and stars. Even if you think back 15, 16 years ago, I think back, one of the better divisions in all of boxing was Kelly Pavlik, Sergio Martinez, Paul Williams. They were all competing in this division, and it was kind of like a artisan division, you know, like the real know-it-all people really liked the middleweight division. And then, of course, Golovkin went on his run. You know, little above the weight class was obviously Andre Ward, one of the greats of the era. You got all these great fighters competing, and middleweight was like a stop. And, you know, you had Canelo at the weight class, etc. And really, where has this division gone since really Golovkin's retirement? No one's really taken the division over. And we're going on about 5 years of middleweight just not having an identity. And by identity, I mean a strong champion who at least is somewhat active and just appears to be the best guy in the division. I think some people would have thought that was Janibek, but then when he fought Denzel Bentley, that was just not a very good performance. So, like, there's always questions when you have a performance like that where did he win? Did he not win? You can't even make sense of the performance. And then that piggybacks into super middleweight, which is ironically one of the most exciting divisions. And that's kind of like the thing between middleweight and super middleweight is junior middleweight. You've got Boots Ennis, you got Virgil Ortiz, you got Xander Zayas, you got exciting fights. Super middleweight, you've got Canelo, you've got Mbili, you've got all these guys, Hamzat Shiraz, big name fighters. Lester Martinez tonight announced himself, becomes the first Guatemalan world champion winning the interim belt. What a feat. And it really feels like there's some momentum with him. I remember I was in a bar in Oakland before a boxing card, just eating food. And the bartender was like, who's your favorite fighter? He goes, Lester Martinez. So there's organic enthusiasm around Lester Martinez. They really like, there's a following for him. But it shows the void between the middleweight division and the super middleweight division. It's almost the difference between a flat expression and a smile on your face. Right now, middleweight just feels like a division that it almost feels like 112 pounds at this point. It almost feels like a division, a lower weight division that's being overlooked and obscured in terms of boxing. So right now, I think that Adames surprised people, Carlos Adames, because people don't even focus on this division. They don't even look at like the skill sets of the fighters in the division. They'll just go off of activity or youth or who does the promoter have, because the division has fallen that far in about 5 years. So what is the state of the middleweight division? It needs someone young to shake up this division. So that's my thoughts is, let's talk about the middleweight division. It needs somebody. It needs something. And I think what it needs is, it needs someone who's willing to fight the young fighters, because that's been the issue with this division. Is it's not an issue of talent. There's about 10 interesting young up-and-comers. The problem I see is none of the up-and-comers want to fight each other, because a loss does so much to deter you to the top of the sport in boxing. So they all want to wait for a champion, but the champions are very inactive in this division. So you have guys waiting on champions, and then you have young fighters taking, stay busy, lateral move type fights, and the division just doesn't get that intrigue that it really should get. And when you need to rebuild, you need the champions that are willing to take on the young, hungry fighters, because I think that's where the legacy component comes in.